Imagine waking up one morning and checking your phone. Every other friend you know, your neighbors, people from your old college are suddenly millionaires, not because they won the lottery, not because they inherited a fortune, because they saw something big, acted while others hesitated, and rode a wave nobody saw coming. That moment isn't fiction, it has happened before, and the last time it happened, ordinary people just like you and me, transformed their lives forever. Now, the question is, are you going to watch or are you going to build? There are moments in history when the rules of wealth creation changed almost overnight, times when ordinary people, not the elite, not the insiders, but regular men and women, were able to capture extraordinary opportunities and turn them into fortunes. These moments don't happen every day, but when they do, they rewrite the map of who holds wealth, who has power, and who gets left behind. The truth is, every era has a window like this. Most people don't recognize it until it has already passed, and then they look back wishing they had acted sooner. But the ones who did see it, the ones who believed, the ones who moved while everyone else doubted, those are the people who became millionaires. Think about the California gold rush. At first, it was just whispers, rumors about gold in the streams and hills. A few people packed up everything they had, took the risk, and went west. For many, it was a struggle. For a few, it was life changing. And here's the truth that history books rarely emphasize. Most of the wealth wasn't made by digging for gold. It was made by the merchants who sold tools, the innkeepers who provided shelter, the ones who thought differently. Every day, people who positioned themselves around the opportunity instead of chasing it blindly built fortunes that lasted generations. Fast forward to the Industrial Revolution. Factories, machines, and mass production reshaped society. Suddenly, a single person could create output at a scale never seen before. Entrepreneurs who saw this shift didn't just build businesses, they built empires. Workers who adapted and learned how to operate machines became more valuable than those who resisted change. Communities that embraced innovation prospered while others faded into irrelevance. Again, it wasn't just the elites. Many immigrants, farmers, and shopkeepers turned into millionaires because they caught the wave of industrial growth before it became the standard. The same pattern repeated with oil. For centuries, energy came from wood, coal, and manual labor. Then came the discovery of vast oil reserves and the creation of entire industries around them. Families that once struggled on barren land suddenly found themselves holding black gold. Workers who moved into the oil fields, investors who put in small amounts before the boom, and entrepreneurs who built supporting businesses. Many of them became wealthy beyond imagination. That was another turning point, and ordinary people who had the courage to act found themselves transformed. Jump into the late 20th century and you'll see it again. Technology reshaped everything. In the 1980s and 1990s, personal computers were still considered toys by many. Few could see that one day they would sit on every desk in every office and every home. The people who believed early, who bought into companies like Microsoft and Apple when they were small, ended up with wealth that most of the world couldn't even comprehend. College students who tinkered with code, employees who took stock options instead of cash, regular families who bought a few shares, they were the ones who saw their net worth multiply, and then came the internet. Think about how ridiculous it must have sounded in the early 1990s to say that businesses would sell products online, who would put their credit card information on a website, who would trust a digital storefront. But a handful of believers did. They invested, they built, they created. And once again, when the dust settled, there were ordinary people who would become millionaires not by luck, but by conviction and timing. Most recently, we saw the same phenomenon with digital assets. Cryptocurrencies were a joke to most of the world at first. Fake money, internet coins, a scam. That's what people said. And yet, there were those who took the time to understand the system, to see the potential. They bought when prices were low, when ridicule was high, and then, almost overnight, those same people saw their small stakes turn into life changing sums. Some became millionaires in their 20s, not because they were born into privilege, but because they were willing to believe before the crowd caught on. The lesson through all these examples is simple but powerful. History doesn't just hand out wealth randomly. It presents moments, rare, fleeting, and disguised as risks. The majority dismiss them, laugh at them, or criticize them. The minority studies them, prepares, and takes action. Those are the people who become wealthy, not because they are smarter, not because they are luckier, but because they understand the pattern. Wealth is built when the world is shifting and everyone else is still standing still. Right now, somewhere around us, another one of those moments is forming. It may be an artificial intelligence, clean energy, space technology, or something still hidden under the radar. What's certain is that when it fully arrives, we'll hear the same stories we've heard throughout history. People will say, I should have invested when it was small. I should have paid attention when no one else did. I should have moved when the opportunity was still wide open. The difference between those who say, I should have, and those who say, I did, is what separates spectators from millionaires. Every era has its wave. The question isn't whether there will be another chance. The question is whether you will recognize it, whether you will prepare, and whether you will have the courage to act when it feels uncomfortable. Because the truth is, the last time this happened, everyday people became millionaires. And the next time it happens, the same possibility will exist. The only question left is, will you be one of them? Every time in history when ordinary people became wealthy at scale, it wasn't by accident. There were patterns invisible to the majority but clear to those who paid attention. The same forces show up again and again, like echoes through time. People miss them because they're too busy looking for guarantees, waiting for certainty, or listening to the crowd. But the ones who notice these conditions, who understand how they work, are the ones who step into the wave while everyone else stands frozen. The first condition is access. The biggest wealth shifts always begin with opportunities that have low barriers to entry compared to the upside. In the early days of technology, it didn't take millions of dollars to get in. You could buy a handful of shares, build a small website, or write code in your garage. In crypto's infancy, you could buy tokens for pennies or mine them on a laptop. The point isn't that it was easy, it never is, but that the door wasn't locked. Anyone paying attention could have stepped inside. Those who did became the ones telling stories of transformation years later. The second condition is timing. Timing is what separates winners from the ones left behind. The crowd always arrives late when the headlines scream about success, when prices have already skyrocketed, when the chance for outsized gains is gone. But the few who move early, who act when the opportunity is still invisible to the masses, are the ones who capture exponential growth. Timing doesn't mean guessing perfectly. It means being willing to move before the crowd when it still feels uncomfortable, when others laugh or dismiss you. If you wait for comfort, you've already missed the moment. The third condition is belief. Every wealth shift requires conviction when the world is telling you you're wrong. When the internet was new, the critics said it would never replace stores. When social media began, people called it a waste of time. When Bitcoin launched, they mocked it as fake. And yet, in each case, belief created millionaires. It takes courage to stand against doubt, to keep going when there's no applause, to invest when others are selling. That conviction, when matched with preparation, becomes unstoppable. The fourth condition is leverage. Wealth is never built on effort alone. It multiplies through systems, technology, and scale. During the Industrial Revolution, machines allowed one person to produce what once required dozens. During the rise of the internet, a single idea could reach millions of users at almost no extra cost. With crypto and digital platforms, small investments had global reach. Those who understood leverage didn't just work harder, they worked smarter, using tools and platforms to amplify every move. Ordinary people without privilege became extraordinary because they found ways to let leverage do the heavy lifting. The fifth condition is information. Access to knowledge has always been the hidden advantage. In the past, information was locked away for the elite, bankers, politicians, wealthy families. But with the internet, information democratized. People who learned early, who stayed curious, who educated themselves while others were distracted, gained the clarity to act. They weren't lucky, they were informed, and in every wealth shift, the informed always outperform the distracted. The crowd waits for headlines, the prepared study before the noise begins. The sixth condition is community. Wealth rarely happens in isolation. During every boom, people clustered together. Miners supported miners, entrepreneurs shared resources, investors traded notes. The right network expands vision, multiplies courage, and opens doors. Being surrounded by people who see opportunity makes it easier to act. Being surrounded by doubters makes it almost impossible. The ones who became wealthy didn't just find the opportunity, they placed themselves in rooms, conversations, and networks that magnified it. The seventh condition is risk tolerance. Every wealth shift requires stepping into uncertainty. There is no reward without discomfort. The crowd waits for guarantees for the risk to disappear, but when risk disappears, so does the upside. The truth is, every millionaire made in these moments carried risk when no one else wanted it. Some failed, yes, but those who succeeded earned wealth beyond imagination. Playing safe never built empires. It was always the willingness to risk small, to learn, to adapt, and to keep playing that unlocked the big wins. The eighth condition is speed. Opportunity windows don't stay open forever. By the time the majority notices, the moment is gone. Those who act with speed, without waiting for perfect clarity, capture the wave. Speed doesn't mean recklessness, it means decisiveness. It means recognizing that hesitation is the most expensive decision of all. While others debate, analyze, and overthink, the bold are already building, investing, and positioning. And when the results arrive, the gap between those who moved and those who waited is unbridgeable. The final condition is vision. To see wealth shifts, you have to imagine what doesn't exist yet. You have to look at the small seed and picture the forest. When cars first appeared, many thought they were toys. When smartphones launched, critics dismissed them as gadgets. When online shopping began, people laughed at the idea. And yet, those who had the vision to see beyond the present, to anticipate the future, became the ones holding the keys to fortunes. Vision isn't predicting the exact outcome, it's recognizing the potential before it's obvious. When you piece these conditions together, access, timing, belief, leverage, information, community, risk tolerance, speed, and vision, you see the blueprint. It's the same blueprint that has repeated across centuries, industries, and technologies, and it's the same blueprint forming today. The crowd will say it's impossible, too risky, too uncertain. But the truth is, history doesn't just repeat, it rhymes. Those who understand the patterns, who recognize the conditions, and who dare to move, will always find themselves on the winning side of the next shift. The conditions are not hiding, they're right there in front of us, waiting for the ones bold enough to act. Because every time the world changes, every time a new wave forms, the opportunity for everyday people to become extraordinary reappears. The only question is whether you'll recognize the pattern before it's too late. If you look closely at the turning points of the past, they are not just stories of people striking it rich. They are lessons, practical, hard-earned truths that apply right now. The world may look different, the industries may have new names, but the human behavior, the patterns, the opportunities, they follow the same rhythm. And if you understand these lessons, you'll stop looking back saying, I missed it, and start preparing to say, I caught it. The first lesson is that opportunity never announces itself with a trumpet. It comes disguised as uncertainty, as doubt, as something laughable. When railroads were first proposed, people said horses were better. When the internet began, people said it was a fad. When crypto showed up, people called it a scam. The biggest wealth building chances always look questionable at the start. So if you're waiting for the moment when everything feels safe, when everyone agrees, you're not waiting for opportunity. You're waiting for the end of it. The second lesson is that education is the ultimate investment. The people who became wealthy in past shifts weren't always the ones with the most money. Many started with almost nothing, but they invested in learning. They studied the industries, they asked questions, they tested ideas. Knowledge gave them courage when others froze, and that hasn't changed. If you're not constantly learning about markets, about technology, about the forces shaping the future, you are choosing ignorance in a world where information is the greatest asset. The third lesson is that small moves compound into big wins. People think you need massive amounts of money to catch opportunities. That's a lie. Many millionaires started with small stakes, with investments that looked insignificant at the time. They compounded, they grew, they built momentum. The lesson is clear. You don't need to be wealthy to position yourself. You need discipline. You need to start, however small, and let time and compounding do their work. Waiting until you have enough is another way of saying you'll never begin. The fourth lesson is that conviction beats consensus. The crowd is almost always wrong at the start. They laugh, they criticize, they dismiss. And then, when the opportunity matures, they rush in at the top. If you follow the crowd, you inherit their timing, which is always late. The lesson is simple. Trust your research, your preparation, your belief. Conviction doesn't mean ignoring risk. It means having the courage to act on knowledge before the crowd validates it. By the time the crowd agrees, the upside is gone. The fifth lesson is that wealth loves speed. When opportunities open, they don't stay open forever. Those who act fast, who are decisive, capture the lion's share. The ones who hesitate, who debate endlessly, who want to analyze every detail, end up watching from the sidelines. The lesson here is that hesitation costs more than mistakes. You can recover from a wrong step. You can't recover from standing still while the window closes. Speed matters, not recklessness, but decisiveness. The sixth lesson is that courage and risk are inseparable. Every fortune has a story of risk behind it. Someone put their reputation on the line, their savings, their time, their energy. They stepped into the unknown when it was uncomfortable. That's why they got rewarded. Too many people want reward without risk, comfort with gain. It doesn't work like that. The lesson is that risk is the entry fee to opportunity. If you're unwilling to pay it, don't expect to sit at the table when wealth is being created. The seventh lesson is that innovation doesn't wait for permission. It happens whether people are ready or not. Entire industries have collapsed because they ignored it. Think of Blockbuster laughing at Netflix. Think of newspapers dismissing digital media. The lesson is clear. Don't underestimate the speed of change. Don't assume the way things are will be the way they'll stay. Innovation will disrupt, and it will create new winners. The only question is whether you'll adapt fast enough to be one of them. The eighth lesson is that the environment around you matters. People who became wealthy often weren't alone. They surrounded themselves with believers, with doers, with people who were thinking bigger. The wrong environment breeds fear and hesitation. The right environment builds courage and clarity. The lesson is simple. If you want to grow, you cannot stay surrounded by people who think small. Change your environment and you'll change your outcomes. The ninth lesson is patience with execution. Many fortunes weren't built overnight, even if the stories make it seem that way. The internet didn't explode in 1 year, it took a decade. Real estate cycles unfold over years. Crypto had long winters before explosive growth. The lesson is that patience separates the lucky from the strategic. You don't just need speed to enter, you need patience to hold. Those who panic at the first sign of struggle lose. Those who stay steady, who trust the process, who ride the waves, come out on top. And finally, the biggest lesson: history doesn't repeat, but it rhymes. The exact same industries won't appear again, but the same patterns will. Somewhere right now, a new sector is being mocked. Somewhere right now, a new technology is being doubted. Somewhere right now, an opportunity is hiding in plain sight, waiting for the few who will prepare, who will act, who will believe. If you study the past, not as nostalgia, but as instruction, you'll see that the same forces are already moving around you. So here's the truth. The lessons aren't in the past just to admire. They're here to act on. Every lesson is a mirror asking you, will you recognize the next wave? Will you invest in knowledge? Will you start small, move fast, and hold strong? Will you have the courage to risk, the patience to wait, and the vision to believe? Because the lessons of the past are not for history books. They are for you right now in this exact moment to decide whether you'll be a spectator or a participant when the next great wealth shift arrives. If you're serious about building wealth in this era, it can't just be about theory, history, or inspiration. You need steps, clear actions you can take today. The window is open, but walking through it requires preparation, discipline, and execution. You don't need to be the smartest. You don't need to be born into privilege, and you don't need to have millions sitting in your bank account. What you need is clarity, courage, and a willingness to move while others stand still. Here's how you do it. The first step is education. In every wealth shift, those who won weren't the ones waiting for someone to hand them answers. They were the ones digging, reading, experimenting, and learning when the information was raw. That's where you must begin. Pick a sector you believe will shape the future, whether that's artificial intelligence, green energy, space exploration, biotech, or digital assets, and study it relentlessly. Don't skim headlines, go deeper. Read white papers, listen to experts, watch case studies, and learn the mechanics. When you know more than the average person, you'll see patterns the average person never notices. That knowledge becomes your edge. The second step is to start small and start now. People overestimate what they need before they can move. They say, I'll invest once I have more money, or I'll start once the timing feels perfect. Those are excuses. The truth is, momentum begins small. Buy a tiny position in a stock you believe in. Test a side hustle. Build a small digital product. Record your first video. The amount doesn't matter. The act does. The discipline of moving, of taking your idea out of your head and into reality, is what separates dreamers from builders. The earlier you start, the more time you give compounding to work its magic. The third step is to build skills that cannot be ignored. In every shift, wealth didn't just flow to investors. It also flowed to the builders, the creators, the problem solvers. If you want to be in the game, you need skills the future demands. That could be coding, design, data analysis, storytelling, marketing, or leadership. Pick one and master it. Don't dabble in everything. Choose the skill that connects with your passion and the opportunities of tomorrow and go deep. Skills are leverage. They give you the ability to create value in any environment. And when you can create value, you'll never be left behind. The fourth step is networking strategically. Surround yourself with people who are already moving in the direction you want to go. This doesn't mean idolizing billionaires. It means finding communities, masterminds, groups, or online forums where people are building, investing, and thinking ahead. The energy of your environment will shape your actions. If you're surrounded by small thinkers, you'll hesitate. If you're surrounded by big thinkers, you'll accelerate. The right room will stretch your vision and force you to level up. Don't underestimate this. Your network is one of the most powerful assets you can build. The fifth step is managing risk. The greatest opportunities always involve uncertainty, but risk doesn't mean recklessness. Risk means calculating how much you can afford to lose, protecting yourself against total collapse, and spreading your bets intelligently. Don't throw everything you own into one coin, one stock, or one idea. Diversify, build safety nets, keep learning as you go. Risk is unavoidable, but unmanaged risk is destructive. Those who became wealthy didn't gamble blindly. They took smart risks, adjusted quickly, and kept themselves in the game long enough to win big. The sixth step is execution speed. Once you've identified an opportunity, don't drown it in endless planning. The world rewards action. Launch the product, test the service, make the investment, publish the content. You can refine as you go, but if you wait for perfection, someone else will pass you by. Speed creates feedback, and feedback creates clarity. The faster you move, the faster you learn, and the faster you position yourself ahead of the crowd. The seventh step is consistency. Most people start strong and fade quickly. They take one course, make one investment, start one project, and when results don't appear overnight, they quit. That's why most people never build wealth. They confuse quick wins with lasting success. The truth is, wealth is built in layers through repetition, through consistency, through the boring, unglamorous work that compounds into extraordinary outcomes. Set daily, weekly, and monthly actions and stick to them whether you feel motivated or not. Momentum is built through consistency, not excitement. The eighth step is adapting constantly. The landscape will shift. What looks like a perfect idea today might be outdated tomorrow. Don't get attached. Stay flexible. Be willing to pivot, to adjust, to move resources into what's working and cut what's not. The market doesn't care about your feelings. It rewards results. The ones who succeed are not those who never fail. They're the ones who adapt faster than others. The ninth step is documenting your journey. Whether you're investing, building, or learning, write it down. Share it, teach it. When you document your process, you create accountability for yourself and value for others. And in the digital world, that documentation itself can become an asset. A blog, a channel, a newsletter, a community, it compounds your voice, your credibility, and eventually your opportunities. Too many people hide their journey, waiting until they're successful to share. That's a mistake. Share now, grow as you go, and watch how it multiplies. The final step is vision. You must keep your eyes fixed not just on where you are, but where you're going. If you're only reacting to today, you'll always be late. Vision means training yourself to imagine how trends could evolve, how technologies could expand, how opportunities could scale. It doesn't mean predicting the exact future. It means preparing yourself for multiple versions of it. Vision keeps you steady when the noise is loud and the crowd is confused. Vision makes you act before others, and it makes you hold when others panic. These steps are not theory. They are practical, they are real, and they are available to anyone willing to move. Education, small beginnings, skill, building, networks, risk management, speed, consistency, adaptation, documentation, and vision. Put them into practice, and you will not just be watching when the next wealth shift happens. You'll be in position to capture it. Every person who became wealthy in the past followed some version of these steps, whether they knew it or not. The same blueprint is in front of you. The only difference is whether you'll apply it or let it pass you by. There comes a moment in every era when hesitation becomes the most expensive decision you can make. The people who miss out on wealth shifts aren't always the ones who lack intelligence or resources. They are the ones who wait too long. They think they have time. They think the door will always stay open. They think opportunity will politely wait for them to feel ready. It never does. Opportunity is like a fast moving train. If you're not on it when it pulls out, you're left behind on the platform watching others race ahead. Urgency isn't a suggestion. It's the difference between being part of the story or being the one who looks back wishing they had moved. The mindset most people carry is one of comfort. They want guarantees before they act. They want certainty before they invest. They want applause before they create. But history has shown over and over again that certainty only arrives after the gains are gone. By the time it feels safe, it's too late. The shift in thinking you must embrace is this: comfort is the enemy of growth. The wealthiest people in history were the ones who acted in discomfort, who leaned into uncertainty, who decided that fear was not a stop sign, but a signal that they were entering new territory. Urgency doesn't mean recklessness. It means recognizing that the clock is ticking. While you debate, while you overanalyze, while you convince yourself you'll start someday, the opportunity is compounding for someone else. Someone else is already learning the skill, making the investment, building the business, sharing the idea. They are staking their claim while you're still waiting for the right mood. Every day you wait is a day closer to regret. If you want to shift your life, you have to shift your relationship with time. Stop treating it like an infinite resource. Time is your most limited asset, and urgency is how you respect it. The shift in mindset also requires moving from scarcity to abundance. Most people think in terms of what they could lose. They're paralyzed by the thought of risk, by the fear of failure, by the worry of looking foolish. That scarcity mindset blinds them to what they could gain. The people who create wealth understand that risk is not something to be avoided, it's something to be managed. They don't ask, what if I fail? They ask, what if this works? They don't dwell on the cost of entry. They focus on the potential return. That simple switch shifting from fear of loss to vision of gain is often the dividing line between those who leap forward and those who stay stuck. Another mindset shift is from passive to active. Most people sit back, watching events unfold, treating themselves as spectators of history. They scroll, they consume, they talk, but they don't act. They believe the world is happening to them, but the truth is, the world is shaped by those who take action. Every wealth wave in history wasn't built by spectators. It was built by participants. You have to stop asking, what's going to happen, and start asking, what am I going to do? That one change transforms you from a bystander into a player, and players are the only ones who win. Urgency also requires discipline. People think urgency means moving chaotically, chasing every shiny opportunity. That's not urgency, that's distraction. True urgency is focused, disciplined, relentless pursuit of a clear direction. It's waking up every day and asking, what action today brings me closer to the future I want? It's cutting out wasted time, wasted energy, wasted excuses. Urgency means respecting the small steps because you understand how fast they add up. Every day counts, every action compounds, and when you treat time that way, you stop drifting and start building. The mindset shift also includes embracing failure as fuel. Most people think failure is the end. They treat it as proof they weren't ready, as a reason to quit. But those who build wealth know failure is data, failure is progress, failure is the tuition you pay to learn how to win. If you let failure stop you, you'll never get far enough to taste success. If you let failure teach you, you'll adapt faster, you'll get sharper, and you'll reach the results everyone else quit before seeing. Urgency plus resilience creates momentum that nothing can stop. You must also shift from consuming to creating. The majority of people are locked in consumption mode. They scroll through content, they binge entertainment, they talk about what others are doing. Very few create, but every wealth shift has rewarded the creators, the ones who put their ideas into the world, who built businesses, who launched products, who shared their voice. If you remain only a consumer, you remain powerless. When you become a creator, you step into the driver's seat of your own future. That's a mindset shift that changes everything. Finally, urgency means accepting that the window will close. Every opportunity has an expiration date. The early adopters reap the exponential rewards. The latecomers fight over scraps. The question isn't whether another chance will come. It always does. The question is whether you'll be ready for this one. The shift in mindset is about refusing to assume there will always be a next time, because maybe there will, maybe there won't. But if you miss the one in front of you, it won't matter. So here's the truth. The life you want is not waiting for you 5 years from now. It's waiting in the actions you take today. Urgency is the bridge between knowing and doing. Mindset is the engine that drives you across it. You don't need more time, you need more clarity. You don't need perfect conditions, you need decisive action. You don't need everyone's approval, you need your own conviction. The clock is ticking, the wave is forming. The question is simple. Will you be the one who acts now, or will you be the one who watches history pass by, saying once again, I should have moved when I had the chance? So here's where you are right now, at a threshold. History has opened that door before, where everyday people took the leap. The same patterns are forming, the warnings are ringing. The chance to change everything is nearer than you think. The question isn't if it can happen, we know it has. The real question is, will you be among them this time? Will you watch from the sidelines, or will you claim what's possible? Because once opportunity knocks once, the current pulls. Those who prepare, those who act, those who believe will emerge not just with stories but with wealth. It's your turn. Go build.